regarding the early detection, prevention, and intervention to scoliosis at children aged to 12 years old in the Duros area. Given the long-lasting impact of the scoliosis to children's health and their quality of life, we have collaborated with a lot of stakeholders, including healthcare institutions, educational authorities, local government, different NGOs and Rotary clubs, in order to ensure a holistic and sustainable approach. And for that we have signed a comprehensive memorandum of understanding which define the roles and responsibilities for each partners. Rotary clubs are responsible for funding, for community outreach and volunteer support, while healthcare institutions and specialists conducted a screening process, preparing the training program for teachers of physical education at schools, while educational institutions facilitated the screening process and awareness program for children, for parents, for educators, etc. While the government and NGOs helped in advocacy, policy alignment, and scaling the initiative. We created a comprehensive communication with partners through online and in-person meeting, also through different management tools like WhatsApp, emails, and in-person meetings. Of course, during this process we have challenges to face, because some schools created resistance from concerns over time and resources, but we try to resolve them communicating with school directors and demonstrating the importance that activities in the framework of the project will impact in the long-term period. So the success of our project is built on the strength of our partnership. Working together, healthcare professionals, Rotary clubs, teachers and community leaders, we make sure that our activities will have an important impact on our community and will become the prevention of scoliosis as a priority for our town.
It's a fantastic answer. I love how intentional you were about how each of the partners brought their own unique strengths to the project, and also addressed a little bit about how you navigate when a conflict might arise during the progress of the project. So that's fantastic. Nishad, I'm hoping that I can turn to you now from your experience as a member of the cadre, working with sponsors to advise them and also visiting their projects to assess how well they are going. And I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit about the common challenges you see in implementing global grant programs, and give your insight into how some of those common challenges can be avoided.
Thank you, Nora, and for inviting me to speak at this important panel. It's always a pleasure to share the experience and the knowledge of fellow Rotarians. Before going to challenges, I think that's the important thing that to mention, the saying that we say, let's start with Rotary and good things happen. So I think that the important thing in Rotary is that the four-way test is a screening that we are going through our actions when we go to the four-way test. So the truth, fairness, goodwill and better friendship, and equality in benefits are so important for any action, not just in Rotary, but also in business and in daily life, in family. So I think besides the four-way test, is important that we have to install in our community. Whenever I go, I said we have to install in our community the culture of giving, because giving is so important to start the global grant. If we are not donating, we cannot be part of the global grant. It doesn't matter how much you give, 100,000, 10,000. It's important we need to install the culture of giving in our community. Besides culture of giving, there's also art of communication. We need to communicate. I was so impressed in our community when people trust Rotary, and they came, the last project with photovoltaic panels, so they came to our meeting and said, can you help us? I said, why to us, why Rotary? I said, we went to the municipality, they couldn't provide help. We went to the Ministry of Health, no, we went to hospital. So we know that what you in Rotary Club promised, you will accomplish. So that's important, that Rotary to build a good image in the community and to have this art of communication. So we have to understand the people's need. But before now going to the challenges, I think those challenges made us stronger. Any challenge that we have in our life made us stronger. But the challenge, the real challenge is a proper planning. If we lack of proper planning and community assessment in the beginning, that's a real challenge, and you have to give up. If you do not assess, if you do not interview, if you do not have a survey, or focus group, community meetings, and community mapping, then the project will fail. So the community assessment is always important for a successful grant. Besides community assessment phase, we need always to have a community involvement from the beginning. We have to work hand in hand with the community, not just separately, because it's a joint project, and we have to understand the community and to work together with hand in hand with them. What is the next step in the challenge is proper fund tracking. If we do not track our funding, where we are spending our funds, then we will have budget overruns. If we have budget overruns, then we'll have delay in our project. And if we have a delay in our project, then we have also a cancellation of the project to consider. So these are some important steps that we have to consider when we are drafting a proposal for a global grant. Then it comes to the monitoring report. Every project has to be monitored before reporting. I can share with you the project of photovoltaic panels that Elizabeth is well aware of. And then we have a project that we have signed a contract with a company for installation, but it was 2 years ago. But in the meantime, photovoltaic panels became better, expensive, and produce more energy. So we had 360 photovoltaic panels, old one, for this project. And it was about to produce 147 kilowatt energy. And the company asked us, can we change and install the better photovoltaic panels? But it was only 200 photovoltaic panels. I said, no, we cannot do that. You can install 360 or 350, what the highest number, and produce energy with this bifacial photovoltaic panels. So instead of 147 kilowatt, we came with 201 kilowatt with the same amount of money and with the same company. And so we have always to monitor the project. We cannot leave somebody to implement, somebody to install, and we are not following. And the reporting, what is most important for reporting, we have to see, as the President said, impact. Impact in our project. This project, now instead of 147 produced 201 kilowatt. Is less, it's pollution. So now with this project, now we'll have 900 tons of CO2 emission. And the hospital, the owner of this project, are making 17,000, or actually spending less 17,000 euros a year. So they are making income from this. So these are the steps that we have to follow and consider, and challenges that we can overcome, but we have to think prior. And we as a cadre, I have monitored and evaluated 2 global grants. So one in the West Bank of Palestine. It was the Rotary Club of East Jerusalem together with Minneapolis Rotary Club, and the other one in Bulgaria, in Vancouver. So always we have to, as a cadre member, we are always there to help the clubs and to have Rotarians. So helping Rotarians is one, and also safeguarding the funds of the Rotary Foundation. So I know that we will have another questions soon, just to share some experience and challenge.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to have you pass the microphone to Elizabeth, who is going to address a similar topic. Elizabeth, as the person at the Rotary Foundation who is reading the grant reports and in touch with sponsors from all over the world about how their projects are going, what are some of the common challenges that you see come up in global grant projects, and how can they be avoided or addressed?
Yes, so a common one that I believe both myself and our colleagues see is a communication breakdown between the project sponsors. And this could be between the 2 sponsors, both the host and international, or it could also be with the sponsors and their cooperating organization in the community. And what happens is when communication breaks down between these parties that are implementing the project together, sometimes is one sponsor will be particularly involved and another sponsor may not. And then when it's time for reporting, it's difficult because both sponsors need to be involved in the reporting process. So what I recommend is creating a communication plan early on in the project planning period before you even submit a global grant application. Form a communication plan between all the parties and make sure to follow that plan closely. That might look like a monthly meeting with all the parties, or it might be regular email communication or even a WhatsApp group I've seen work very well. But what's important is that you have a plan and that you follow it for the success of your project.
Great. So I'm hearing key themes here, that a little bit more work on the front end in the project planning phase can really save you some hardship on the back end. And then Nishad, I think your point about continually monitoring rather than just waiting till the project's end can help you identify issues early as they're coming up. And we'll talk more about monitoring in a little bit. Florentina, I'm hoping I can ask you to first describe the project that you'll be talking about, and then address any changes that you may have needed to make to your project plan as you were in the implementation phase. What caused you to make them, and kind of how did you make those decisions and assessments?
Well, thank you. I'll be sharing experience on the Rotary of the global grant that will be implemented by Rotary Club Pristina, and the project is named Empowering Youth for Peace. And it's a very sensitive project where we're bringing Albanian-speaking and Serbian-speaking youth to be trained to these skills on the peace building, to be mentored individually, but also to work together in the community for a peace project. So basically there will be a hands-on work on that. I will be answering this question related to the stage that we are actually currently now. So in principle, our community assessment has been very in-depth. So since we have conducted community assessment starting almost 18 months ago, we have met all the youngsters who will be part of the project themselves. And we also have conducted meetings with other organizations. To us, this was essential, so we would not have any major change. In order to achieve that on the project, actually the club, when I'm saying we, is the club, who has established a collaboration with a highly specialized NGO that deals with everything in the field of peace. So to us, this has been very crucial because I know that every unique project in different types of fields is very important to achieve its objectives. But when we speak of peace, it's not just a skill; it's something that has to be there in present, has to be highly sustainable. So usually working with these projects is very different. The only change actually throughout the project development that we have done, and that we have done in collaboration with NGO and also the representatives of the Rotary International Grant Office, is that we have modified the activities. Where initially we planned to have more in-class trainings and less mentoring. But we went back to the community and we were assessing which is the best way for the youth to grow personally and also professionally when we're speaking of peace. So then we decided to add at that stage that we should have more individual mentoring rather than just training in the classroom. But this is not going to this is going to have a better impact on that because then we are working more one-on-one.
That's wonderful, yes. I think it speaks to the need to continue to keep your ears open. Even after you've laid out your plan, you still want to be able to be responsive to those community members. Ella, I'm going to come back to you because I really liked in your initial response how much you talked about the intentionality with which you were communicating with your partners. And I hope you can go a little bit deeper there and tell us how you kept the people who benefited from your project as well as the local community members informed of the project's intent so that they would be fully invested in its implementation.
Again, referring to our Care for Children's Scoliosis Detection and Treatment, we aim to create a comprehensive approach and sustainable one in order to manage the early detection of this problem, benefiting a broad spectrum of the community through improved health outcomes, increasing awareness and enhancing healthcare infrastructure. The project aimed to tackle scoliosis in order to reduce its prevalence through systematic school screening for early detection and intervention, specifically including teaching, education, training, and awareness process. Additionally, it focused very much to the awareness campaign through education with new knowledges enabling them to early intervention, include healthcare professionals that will gain new approaches regarding diagnosis and treatment, and also communities, of course, that will profit from the awareness campaign all together, working together to improve the situation of the scoliosis. So, due to this collaboration, due to a lot of beneficiaries from this project, they all are aware what is going on through activities planning in the framework of the project.
Fantastic. Yes, it's such an important part of most global grants is making sure that you're investing in the education, that you're really raising up the community's awareness so that they feel ownership over and motivation for the project's results. Nishad, you touched on measurement earlier on, and I would like to hear your top recommendation for implementing a successful project measurement and evaluation plan.
The top recommendation, besides the community involvement, is the ownership of the project. because we have to make sure that when funding ends, not let the project die. So when the funding ends, we have to make sure who is owner of the project. I just can make some comparison with this project that we have just recently implemented in PEA. So we had a broad community assessment, detailed. When I say detailed, interviews, surveys, community meetings, community mapping, because we want to be sure that such projects was not implemented in the community. It was not. This is not a replica of some previous project that maybe failed. So the top recommendations are, let's say, we have to take care of the important things that will make this project sustainable, and that is the ownership. Then we have made the agreement with the hospital, so share responsibility. What we are going to do, we are going to secure funding from different, let's say, the Rotary clubs, but I have also to share with you that this project is very important because we have 8 Rotary clubs from around the world and 5 districts that we are working with us. So Rotary clubs from Japan, 2 of them, from United States, California, from France, 2 from Wales, 1 from Sweden, and Rotary Club of here. And then we have also 5 districts. So what Rotary needs is to build trust. Trust, not just with the partners, with sponsors, but also trust within Rotary Club, within the community, within our partners, and implementing partners and companies. So when we build trust, then it's such important thing to implement. So besides community assessment and let's say the ownership of the project, we have to also to think that we cannot change funding without approval from the Rotary Foundation. So the funding, how we are changing funding, or what if something we want to change or invest in something else during the project. We need to approach the Rotary Foundation and our sponsors, our partners. So, and the one important thing is that you can approach CADRE always. Here we are, 500 members of CADRE globally, speaking 75 languages in 80 countries. We are always here to help you. We are here to safeguard the funding of the Rotary Foundation, to advise Rotarians, clubs, to apply for the grant, to monitor, evaluate the grant. So this is also a good recommendation for all of you that don't know what CADRE is doing. So we are here to help.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, what is the most valuable information that sponsors can include on their grant reports outside of course, the required financial information?
Yes, and that financial information is important. But what else is important, in my opinion, is that sponsors share the lessons that they have learned throughout the implementation process. I think a lot of times sponsors feel the pressure perhaps to impress us as a staff with the work that is being done, and that we expect it to be perfect. I'm here to tell you that we don't expect that. We do not expect perfection, but we do ask you to tell us what is working and tell us what is not working. And the reason for that is because it's a learning process for us as well. So as you learned through the implementation of your grant what is and isn't working, when you give that information to us, that helps us to be better at coaching future sponsors for other projects in the future who are doing similar work. And that way, as the bigger Rotary community and the Rotary Foundation, we can continue to make our good work better and better in the community.
Great, thank you. And since we did not talk specifically about the financial reporting there, Nishad, I'm going to ask you to share your thoughts on what you look for as a cadre.
It comes to a retention of expenses, documents. We need also to advise, I'm advising clubs to make the financial narrative report at the end of each year. And this financial narrative report to be handed over to the president-elect. In this case, whatever is done in the club, you have in financial report. And it's transferred to the president-elect. And then it's transferred to the next president-elect. So in 5-10 years, you will have always financial data and spending for any project, for all spending that has occurred to the Rotary Club. In guidelines, they said we have to keep store 5 years. But I think in this case, we can have it even more. Then we have to have a bank statement, bank tracking, all invoices, all expenses, and contract sale. As I mentioned, this contract with a photovoltaic panels company, we had a contract in the beginning, but we had to renew the new contract because of the new, how can I say, device, a new photovoltaic panel including in this project. So we have to be careful what we are suggesting, and we are here always to help the companies and safeguard the Rotary Foundation funds.
Thank you. I do hope that everybody implements your recommendation to have that financial narrative and transfer it over year after year. We do sometimes see that a primary contact will leave and then it's very difficult to go back and recompile all of that financial data. So that's a great recommendation. Florentina and Ella, I'm going to ask you both to address this next question. We'll start with you, Florentina. If you were to do your project, if you were to start planning your project all over again from the beginning, are there any changes that you would make to how you approached that from what you've learned so far in this process?
Well, specifically to the project in the peace and conflict prevention, we would not change anything into the community assessment because it has been very in-depth community assessment conducted. Nevertheless, we would have liked that to extend to the region, because speaking of speech is not, when we speak of peace, is not only about something happening within one region, one country. So definitely the other approach would have been that at least few the activities like either a come-together activity, a conference, or at least the awards process after the community projects have been implemented within the project. So basically we would have liked to extend that to the neighboring country. Specifically, that could have been for the project being implemented in Kosovo, could have been the Northern Macedonia, the Serbian, so that to include the clubs there. So definitely this could have been the approach that we have used if we do the second time. And actually, this is something that at the club, there is a discussion, so we will not stop only with this project. So most probably the second phase of the project is to extend to the region.
Wonderful. And Ella, how about you? Any changes you would make if you were starting all over again from day one?
Yes, of course. We have made some changes in our project. During the community assessment preparations and during the project preparations, we did some changes regarding two things. First of all, we decided to focus the activities solely in Dura city instead of expanding the activities in some other cities of Albania and Kosovo. And the second change was that we adjust the budget, modifying the equipment purchase strategy. But we do these changes being sure that the project remain feasible and effective one. So with these changes, we try to optimize resources on the training and awareness campaign instead of doing some other expenses on sophisticated equipment and expanding the project in some other cities. So the lesson learned here is that flexibility and adaptability are keys to make the initiative a success without compromising with quality and sustainability.
Beautifully said. Okay, Nishad, as we are moving towards the close of our panel, I'm hoping that based on your experience working with multiple project sponsors on their projects, if you could give, I'm going to ask you for 2 sets of recommendations. The first is your top recommendation for sponsors to have a successful implementation process, and then returning to a theme you brought up earlier, your top recommendation for sponsors to ensure the sustainability of their project once the grant ends.
Yeah, it's how can I say, it's working with different, it's also a culture where the project is implemented, environmental culture, and also the culture of the community. So it differs. For example, I just can compare the project I evaluated in West Palestine, and also it was from the Jerusalem East Rotary Club. So when they went to the community, it was a signage of Rotary logo, and the logos in the equipment, they said that's not appropriate, maybe not acceptable for the community. So we have to find a solution how. And so I asked them to go to the community, tell them what is what we are doing with global projects, polio and so on. So it's always good to share, and as I said before, we have to find a solution. So it was maybe culturally inappropriate, but at the end, the community understand that Rotary is there to help. It was a Mercedes van with a local Rotary logo and going over and over. So in the beginning, they were afraid, the driver and everybody, because said they can be attacked or whatever. But at the end, it turns that it was a very successful move, and they understand that Rotary is there to help. And they understand that this is very important organization that is in the community. So what was the second question?
The second question was about ensuring project sustainability so that the project can continue after the grant itself ends.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the ownership is so important. If we want the sustainability of the project, we have to make an agreement with the company. We have implemented, I have implemented many projects, not I, but I was somehow monitoring the implementation of various projects. In the school, WASH projects, in 17 schools. But we make an agreement always with the schools, with the municipal director of education. We make in the last project agreement, a memorandum of understanding with the hospital, with a company that is going, the company is going to maintain and service the equipment after the project funding ends. So it's so important that how can I say, we find the proper solution and the owner. Then it's also important for the sustainability to have the local products. It means to buy local and the equipment and also service and maintenance. So we have to be sure that these are important things that we have to make locally, and that it gives the sustainability in maintenance and also duration of the project. Just, I think, when we came to the capacity building. Capacity building is so important. The trainings. We are not, I just want to share with you, we are not paying the rent. Rotary doesn't pay the rent. Rotary doesn't pay salaries. Because if we pay rent, if we pay salaries, then the project will fail. after the funding ends. But we can pay for the training. The training is so important. In this project, we have agreed with the company to conduct a training with the hospital staff for maintenance and service. But then we had make an agreement also with Let's Do It Pair, environmental NGO, to conduct a behavior change training. So with each Rotary project, behavior change is important. Training for behavior change is so important in this project. To value the environment, to work together with the community. So training is so important.
Fantastic. Okay, this is going to wrap up our panel, but I think one thing that I heard here is that all strong global grant projects, they start with a conversation with the community and they remain in conversation with the community as the project goes forward. So thank you all for your insights, and I know that folks in this room will be able to continue to take advantage of your knowledge and expertise going forward. And with that, we're going to break for a quick coffee.